Master Sergeant Daniel Hawk Carver stepped out of the docking tube and into the vast heart of the Galactic Concord station. The air tasted clean, engineered neutrality. No scent of oil, soil, or ozone. Just the sterile blend of a place built by a dozen species who feared contamination more than they trusted one another. He inhaled once, slow and steady. Habit. A soldier noting the environment. A human measuring the unknown. He walked with calm precision toward the central atrium. Every alien he passed did the same thing. A quick glance, a longer stare, then the moment of hesitation. Humans still unsettled them. Not for size, not for appearance, but something deeper, something instinctual. The galaxy labeled humans death welders, but that term barely scratched the truth. They moved differently. They looked at danger without flinching. They survived wounds that ended other species instantly. And Carver was a Green Beret. A specialist forged by discipline, not chaos. The atrium opened into a circular hallway lined with luminous panels. 2 Vraxian guards stood at the entrance to the council chamber, armored in crimson plates, towering over him. Their yellow eyes narrowed as he approached. "Halt, human," one growled. His voice sounded like rocks grinding together. Carver stopped, hands visible. U.S. Liaison, Master Sergeant Carver. "I'm here for the summit." The taller guard lowered his spear-like weapon. "The Empire does not recognize human military ranks." Carver's tone remained even. "The Concord does. Step aside." They didn't. The second guard leaned forward. "Your species has no place in a negotiation of empires. You are a footnote." Carver held the guard's gaze. No hostility. No challenge. Just patience. "If you let me through, we won't have a problem." The guards exchanged glances. The taller one scoffed but moved. The smaller followed reluctantly. Carver entered the chamber. The council hall stretched like an amphitheater carved from a single block of silver. A circular table dominated the center, surrounded by diplomats from worlds scattered across the spiral arms. Soft blue light traced the edges, giving the entire room an otherworldly glow. Seats were arranged by seniority. Humans had been placed near the middle, symbolic, but cautious. A sign of respect without surrender. As Carver approached, whispers followed him. "Is he armed?" "No. Humans don't need weapons." "That is worse." He took his seat. Heads turned. A few nodded politely, others kept their distance. The moment he settled, a deep vibration filled the chamber. The massive doors parted, and the Vraxian delegation entered. They marched with theatrical precision. 6 armored guards, 2 officers, and at the center Warlord Exorcan Dravex. A brute wrapped in red exoskeletal plates, standing almost 3 meters tall, shoulders wide as a blast door. Scars crossed his head ridge like carved stone. Exorcan assessed the room as if everything inside belonged to him. When his gaze landed on Carver, he paused. Then he smiled, sharp, predatory. The council speaker rose. "We gather today to address the border violations near Sector Valtorin. We expect cooperation and restraint." Exorcan didn't wait. His voice boomed across the chamber. "The Empire recognizes no borders drawn by lesser species. Humanity claims territory without strength to defend it." Carver leaned forward slightly. "Humanity claimed nothing. Your fleets crossed into Concord space. That's an act of aggression." Exorcan's eyes narrowed. "And you presume to lecture me?" He stepped closer, ignoring the protests from other delegates. "What are you here, human? A symbolic offering? A token to make the Concord feel inclusive?" Carver met his stare without blinking. "I'm here to keep peace. That requires respect." "You crossed a line." The warlord's mandibles twitched in amusement. "Peace exists when I allow it. Your species hides behind treaties because you know war will end you." Carver didn't rise to the bait. "We don't start wars. But we end them." Some diplomats shifted uncomfortably. Others watched with fascination. The tension tightened like a drawn wire. Exorcan circled closer, sizing him up as if expecting fear. He found none. "Tell me, human," he said, lowering his voice, Are you the strongest your world can send? Carver answered with calm honesty. No. The simplicity unsettled the room. Exor Khan chuckled. Then why you? Why not the strongest? Because I'm enough, Carver replied. For a moment, silence dominated the chamber. The warlord suddenly thrust a massive hand forward, grabbing Carver by the chest harness and lifting him slightly off his seat. Gasps echoed around the table. Weapons hummed to life. Officers shouted warnings. Carver didn't resist. He remained still, studying the warlord's grip, breathing steady. Exor Khan tightened his hold. You are insufficient. Carver's voice stayed level. You're violating Concord law. You think I care for your fragile rules? A council guard shouted, release him. Exor Khan ignored it. His armored fingers dug deeper into Carver's vest plate, testing human endurance. Carver spoke low enough only Exor Khan heard. Last chance to step back. The warlord sneered. Or what? Carver's eyes hardened. Not anger, resolve. The kind that belonged to someone who'd seen war up close and lived through its worst. You just made a mistake. The words slid through the tension like a blade. Exor Khan shoved him backward, expecting a stumble or collapse. Instead, Carver landed firmly, boots planted, posture unbroken. The warlord blinked in confusion. Carver rose slowly, adjusting his vest. His presence changed, quiet but charged. Every diplomat recognized it, the shift from patience to readiness. A murmur rippled across the chamber. He didn't fall. He took a direct strike. Humans are impossible. Carver spoke clearly. You wanted to test humanity. Fine. You got your result. Exor Khan's armor plates rattled with irritation. Your insolence. Carver cut him off. You put your hands on the wrong soldier. The chamber reacted like a living organism, breaths held, chairs stiffening, guards preparing for escalation. The council speaker slammed a hand onto his console. Enough. This chamber is neutral ground. Violence here is a declaration of war. Exor Khan opened his hands theatrically. Then war it shall be. Carver didn't blink. You think you know war? You have no idea. The warlord leaned in, face inches away. Then show me. Carver stared back, voice almost a whisper yet carrying through the room like steel. I will. The chamber froze. Carver stood straight, shoulders squared, calm as dawn. Inside him, years of training, discipline, and instinct aligned into perfect focus. Above the station, far beyond the view of any diplomat, a dormant fleet stirred as encrypted signals moved across quantum channels, protocols Earth never intended to reveal. Carver's heartbeat slowed. Exor Khan smiled, believing he'd won. The galaxy was about to learn what a green beret truly was. For a moment, the chamber hung between silence and chaos. Exor Khan towered over Carver, convinced that one hit had defined the outcome. In his mind, the human should have been on the floor, gasping for breath, begging for mercy. Instead, Carver stood with the same calm he'd entered with. No bruise. No stumble. No fear. The warlord's expression shifted from arrogance to unsettled curiosity. Carver met his stare. You don't understand what you've just triggered. Exor Khan laughed, a deep, metallic rumble that shook the chamber walls. I struck you. Nothing more. Your kind survives by pretending to be stronger than you are. Carver tilted his head slightly. Then pretend this was your final warning. The warlord's grin vanished. Several diplomats whispered urgently, trying to salvage the collapsing negotiations. Master Sergeant, please de-escalate. Warlord Exor Khan, this is a neutral territory. Neither of them listened. Exor Khan stepped forward, intending to seize Carver again. His armored gauntlet swung toward the human's shoulder. Carver moved. Fast. A clean, practiced motion, no wasted effort. His left hand snapped up, catching the alien's wrist. Not blocking. Controlling. His grip tightened over the warlord's carapace plating, locking it in place. The chamber reacted instantly. Half the Vraxian delegation rose, chairs scraping, weapons priming. Carver didn't raise his voice. Your move ends here. Exor Khan strained against the hold, expecting human muscle to fail. It didn't. The warlord's mandibles twitched in irritation. "What trick is this?" he demanded. "Training," Carver replied. He twisted Exor Khan's arm, a sharp rotation that exploited a gap between armor segments. The torque forced the warlord down to one knee. Gasps shot through the room as the massive alien crashed to the floor, claws scraping across the polished table edge. Carver held him there, steady and unshaking. A diplomat muttered, "Impossible." Another whispered, "He brought down a Vraxian warlord." Exor Khan tried to rise, rage flaring across his features. Carver pressed harder, forcing the alien back down. Their eyes locked at ground level. Carver spoke clearly, so the entire chamber heard him. "You put hands on a green beret. That's rule number 1. You never do that." The Vraxian guards bolted forward, weapons drawn. Carver released Exor Khan, pivoting into a defensive stance between them and the council. His movements were controlled, efficient, not aggressive. A Concord peace officer shouted, "Stand down, this is neutral ground." But the guards kept advancing, driven by pride more than logic. Carver tapped the subdermal communicator behind his ear. A soft chime answered. The voice of Lieutenant Mara Vance from Earth's Orbital Command came through, calm and quiet. "Master Sergeant, we detected hostile action. Talon Protocol is live. Full fleet is in position. Awaiting your confirmation." Carver didn't blink. "Hold position. No strikes unless authorized." "Copy. Standing by." He lowered his hand, eyes never leaving the armed aliens approaching. The council doors sealed automatically, shimmering with a containment field. The station AI had switched to crisis mode. Exor Khan rose slowly, rubbing the joint Carver had twisted. His pride hurt far more than his arm. "You dare lay hands on me?" Carver didn't respond immediately. He measured his words like a blade being unsheathed. "You made the first move. I answered it. That's discipline." He paused. "You want war. I want peace. But I won't let you use me to start something you're not ready to finish." Exor Khan snarled. "You think humans can resist the Empire? Your species is new to the galaxy." Carver shook his head once. "You still don't get it." He pointed upward. A simple gesture. "Earth's fleet is already awake." The Vraxian officers froze. Even the guards stopped mid-step. Exor Khan scoffed. "Lies. Humans have no hidden fleet." Carver keyed his comm again. "Vance. Give me a visual." A hologram flickered to life above the table. The room darkened. A projection of space appeared, dozens of sleek vessels sliding out from behind the star's shadow. Black hulls, matte coatings, no faction insignias. Silent predators. Each ship carried weapon ports sealed behind layered adaptive plating. They moved with synchronized precision, no drift, no wasted motion. A few diplomats gasped. Others whispered in disbelief. "What class are those? I can't identify the hulls. Are those Earth ships?" Carver spoke quietly. "Orbital Special Action Group. They don't broadcast IDs. They don't need to." Exor Khan stared at the hologram, expression tightening. "Shadowfleet tactics. You hid a strike force in plain orbit." "Not hidden," Carver corrected. "Dormant. Until you touched me." One of the Vraxian guards blurted, "This is a trick." Carver shook his head. "No tricks. Just readiness." Exor Khan slammed a fist onto the table, cracking the metal. "You provoke me with illusions." Carver raised an eyebrow. "If you believe that, order your fleet to test them." The chamber fell quiet. Too quiet. Only the faint hum of the station remained. A Concord diplomat leaned toward Exor Khan. "Warlord, you must reconsider." Exor Khan ignored them and activated his personal link. "Command. Prepare all vessels for engagement." The air in the room tightened. Carver exhaled slowly, almost disappointed. "So that's your answer." Exor Khan glared. "War is the Empire's right." "You started something you can't control," Carver replied. The warlord stepped toward him, face rigid with fury. "Your ships will burn first." Carver didn't flinch. "They won't fire unless I say so." The declaration silenced even the Vraction guards. Carver continued, voice calm as steel cooling underwater. But if you attack this station, if you try to harm anyone here, if you escalate past this point, then yes, they'll answer. And it won't be a battle. It'll be a lesson. Exor snarled, you threaten an empire? No, Carver said. I'm warning one. The warlord's mandibles twitched in bitter rage. You think I fear you? Carver studied him, unblinking. Fear isn't the point. Respect is. The hologram flickered through images of human warships locking into formation, silent, methodical, focused. Carver lowered his voice. Warlord, you hit the wrong person. Now you've forced the galaxy to see what happens next. The chamber lights brightened as the containment field lifted. The speaker, trembling with frustration, slammed his gavel. Enough. Both parties will withdraw. Immediate ceasefire. Exor growled, but the diplomat's eyes told him this wasn't optional. Carver stepped back, hands relaxed. Exor hissed, this isn't over. Carver replied, no. It's only beginning. Above the station, the human fleet waited in perfect silence. And for the first time in centuries, the Vraction Empire hesitated. The Concorde's exterior windows dimmed automatically as the station rotated toward open space. Even from inside, the shift felt like a veil being drawn aside. Delegates pressed closer to the observation arcs, abandoning protocol. Curiosity and dread replaced diplomacy. Outside, Earth's fleet stepped fully into the light. Master Sergeant Carver watched from the hall's edge, hands behind his back. He didn't need to see the vessels to know their formation. He had memorized every layout, every capability, every piece of classified architecture long before coming here. But the sight still carried weight, a silent message carved into the void. A Concorde officer whispered, those ships, they're not on any registry. Carver nodded slightly. They're not meant to be. The holographic projection refreshed to a sharper resolution. The vessels spread in a crescent pattern, sleek, black, angled hulls that absorbed starlight. No banners, no lights, no ceremonial display. Everything about them screamed purpose. Humanity had built warships the way their ancestors built knives, clean, lethal, and unapologetically designed to end fights quickly. Ambassador Yura Th, a tall, blue-skinned diplomat from the Arkle Union, approached Carver carefully. Master Sergeant, if conflict erupts, the casualties will be catastrophic. Carver's eyes stayed on the projection. That depends on who fires first. Before she could respond, the chamber lights shifted. A deep tone pulsed through the walls, an alert from the Concorde AI. Vraction warships had arrived. A second projection materialized beside the first. The contrast was jarring. The Vraction fleet looked like a swarm of armored beasts, hulking dreadnoughts bristling with cannons, heavy plating, spiked prows designed to ram lesser ships. Their vessels moved aggressively, repositioning without regard for formation precision. A Concorde monitor announced, Vraction Empire fleet count, 318 warships. Flagship Gorgathus entering range. Gasps filled the room. Several delegates backed away from the display. Carver didn't move. A Concorde captain muttered, this is madness. Their numbers dwarf yours. Carver only said, numbers don't win battles. Strategy does. Exor re-entered the chamber with his officers, armor clicking against the floor. His posture carried renewed arrogance. He gestured toward the hologram. You see, human? This is the power of an empire. Your vessels are shadows. Mine are storms. Carver didn't look at him. Storms break when they hit mountains. The warlord snarled. You hide behind riddles. Carver turned at last, expression like tempered steel. You mistake preparation for weakness. Vraction officers fanned out behind their leader, energizing datastream screens on their gauntlets. One reported, Warlord, human ships hold position. No change. Cowards, Exor hissed. They wait for permission. Carver didn't deny it. They follow orders. That's discipline. And you are the one they obey? Carver didn't answer directly. He tapped his comm Vance. Online, Sarge, Vance answered. We have the Vraxian Armada on full scan. Status. Shields primed. Rail arrays charged. Torpedo racks loaded. All systems green. We're steady. Carver closed his eyes briefly. Hold. Copy. Exorcan scoffed. Your human restraint is a weakness. Carver's eyes opened. You misunderstand. Restraint is control. If I give the word, your fleet disappears. Gasps erupted again. Diplomats stared at him as if seeing the human for the first time. Exorcan stepped closer, but this time, he moved with caution. You expect me to believe those fragile shells can threaten my dreadnoughts? Carver faced the hologram. Your ships are brute force. Ours are precision. He pointed at a Vraxian cruiser on the display. Watch. Vance's voice returned. Demonstration only. Non-lethal, Carver confirmed. Understood. The human vessel nearest the cruiser shifted position by a fraction, barely a ripple. Then, in complete silence, a narrow beam lanced across space. It struck the Vraxian ship's portside armor. No explosion. No fire. Instead, the plating simply crumbled, dissolving into drifting fragments as though sliced molecule by molecule. The cruiser jolted, engines sputtering. Internal lights flickered. Systems shut down one after another. Within seconds, an entire battleship was dead in space without a single casualty. The chamber shuddered with murmurs. What weapon is that? How did they bypass shields? That's impossible. Carver remained still. Adaptive kinetic disassembly. Not common knowledge. Exorcan stared at the wounded cruiser. His confidence cracked. You disabled it without breaking the hull? Carver nodded once. We don't waste lives. Even enemy ones. The warlord's jaw tightened. Technique means nothing against raw firepower. Then test it, Carver replied. A Vraxian captain released a frustrated growl. Let us fire upon them, warlord. Exorcan hesitated. For the first time. Carver stepped forward slightly. Your ships are powerful, but predictable. They rely on armor, mass, intimidation. Human vessels rely on adaptation. That's why fleets underestimate us until the first engagement. After that, there's no second. Exorcan glared at him. You think your species is untouchable? Carver shook his head. No species is untouchable. But humans don't break easily. A Concord officer approached hurriedly. We are receiving multiple transmissions from neighboring systems. They're monitoring both fleets. If this escalates, half the sector will join the conflict. Carver glanced at the hologram. Then we keep it contained. This situation is beyond containment, the officer snapped. Carver replied calmly, only if someone fires. All eyes shifted to Exorcan. The warlord paced in front of the projection, claws tapping against metal. His pride warred with reason. He wanted a show of dominance. But the demonstration had rattled him deeply. Carver watched him carefully. Exorcan finally stabbed a finger toward the projection. You disabled one cruiser. Impressive. But we have hundreds. Carver's voice remained level. And we have accuracy. Every human ship can do the same. The warlord's eyes hardened. Enough. You want to intimidate me. I refuse to bow. Carver stepped closer. I'm not asking for submission. I'm telling you to stop before you lose more than a ship. The Vraxian command channel crackled. A distant officer reported, Warlord, human vessels are repositioning. Carver tapped his ear. Vance, what are you doing? Restraint. Intercept, he ordered. Far above the station, humanity answered. The next second changed the galaxy forever. UST drifting, Sarge. Defensive alignment. Zero aggression. Carver nodded. Good. Exorcan watched the gentle movement with suspicion. They form a shield wall. No, Carver corrected. A perimeter. For what purpose? Carver held his gaze. To keep you out. The warlord's armor plates rattled with outrage. You mock me. Carver didn't raise his voice. If I wanted to mock you, you'd know. A hush rolled across the chamber. Some diplomats tried to intervene again, but both men ignored them. The air pulsed with the weight of decisions that could ignite stars. Carver's tone turned sharp. You still have a choice. Your fleet can withdraw. No casualties. No war. Exor Khan opened his mouth, but a new alarm blared across the chamber. The projection split again, revealing another incoming signal. A Vraxian super carrier moved forward, ignoring Exor Khan's hold order. The rogue commander barked across open comms, "We will crush the humans, warlord." Exor Khan shouted, "Belay that. Stand down." Carver pressed his comm, jaw tightening. "Vance, be ready. Copy, Sarge. Tracking target." The chamber felt suddenly smaller. The Vraxian carrier's weapons flared to life. Every diplomat braced for the explosion. Carver whispered, "Don't do this." But the carrier fired. A superheated bolt tore across the void. Vance's voice sharpened instantly. "Sarge, we have incoming." Carver closed his eyes for a fraction of a second. There was no more room for. The Vraxian carrier's energy bolt streaked across the void like a comet on fire, bright, violent, unrestrained. Diplomats flinched as the projection magnified the impact path. The shot was aimed straight at the human perimeter. Carver spoke once, quiet but absolute. "Vance. Now." Human response wasn't loud. It didn't roar. It didn't flare with theatrics. A single ship broke formation, gliding forward with eerie smoothness. Its hull panels shifted, revealing a series of nested plates that unfolded like the petals of a mechanical flower. Inside, a slender railbeam assembly rose into alignment. A flash. The carrier's bolt dissolved mid-flight, shredded into harmless particles. The transformation was instant, one moment a weapon of destruction, the next a drifting cloud of glowing dust. A collective exhale filled the chamber. Exor Khan stared at the screen, stunned. What technology is that? Carver didn't look away from the display. A failsafe. Built for situations exactly like this. The Vraxian carrier slowed, confusion spreading through its formation. But hesitation came too late. Its captain wanted glory and had triggered the one thing humanity held back as long as possible. Carver tapped his comm. "Vance. Disable that ship." Target locked. A faint shimmer pulsed from the human vessel. No sound. No explosion. The carrier's engines flickered, then died outright. Lights dimmed across its hull until the massive warship drifted powerless, surrendering to inertia. Carver's posture didn't change. That's 2 warnings. The chamber's tension thickened. Diplomats exchanged glances, fear and/or mixing into something else. Respect. Exor Khan turned sharply. "You dare." Carver cut him off. "Your officer fired on a neutral station. Your fleet should have restrained him." The warlord stepped forward, armor trembling. He acted without authorization. "Then control your chain of command," Carver said calmly. "Because next time, we won't intercept. We'll respond." A rumble spread through the Vraxian delegation. Rage. Shame. Uncertainty. They had come expecting to assert dominance. Instead, their 2 strongest vessels were disabled without a single human casualty or counterattack. The Concord speaker rose. "Warlord Exor Khan, this conflict must end before it consumes every system in range." The warlord's eyes, once full of arrogance, now held something more complicated. His pride warred with the stark reality on display. He tried to regain control, but the room had shifted around him. Carver stepped closer, not aggressive, but direct. "This doesn't need to escalate. You still have an exit. Take it." Exor Khan growled softly, the sound nearly a whisper. "You speak as though you hold the power of an empire." Carver shook his head. "I speak as someone who knows what loss looks like. You're marching your people into a disaster they don't need to face." The warlord's mandibles clicked. "And you claim to understand war." Carver's eyes darkened. "I've seen war up close. I've buried friends. I've walked away from fights I didn't expect to survive. I know what it costs." He leaned in slightly. "Do you?" The question struck harder than any blow. For the first time, Exor Khan faltered. Before he could answer, the chamber's floor vibrated. A new alert sounded. Every diplomat turned toward the display as a ripple formed across the holographic vision of space. A Vraxian dreadnought, one of the largest in their arsenal, began charging a superweapon array along its spine. The chamber erupted. That weapon will tear through the station. They're mad. Shut it down. Exor Khan spun toward his officers. Who ordered that charge? He demanded. A panicked voice crackled through the Vraxian channel. The ship's commander believes humanity is bluffing. He wants to force their surrender. Exor Khan's composure snapped. Cease his order immediately. He refuses. Warlord. The warlord's fury collided with helplessness. His own people had slipped beyond his control. Carver faced the projection. His tone shifted, calm, decisive. Vance. Ready, she answered. No fear, no hesitation. Just readiness. Carver didn't turn from the hologram. Neutralize the weapon. Confirming. Non-lethal only. A human dreadnought moved with silent determination. Its hull released a pattern of glowing lines, an energy web calibrated to disrupt power cores without piercing armor. The beam surged forward, wrapping the Vraxian ship in shimmering light. The dreadnought's weapon core sputtered. The charging buildup collapsed. Systems failed in waves until the superweapon went dark. Exor Khan stared at the projection in disbelief. How did you? Carver answered quietly. We learned long ago that killing an enemy doesn't end wars. Preventing them does. The warlord's voice dropped to a rasp. You humiliated our forces. No, Carver said. I stopped them from making a mistake they couldn't survive. The Vraxian officers exchanged uneasy looks. Their confidence fractured. Carver stepped closer to the warlord. We don't want your empire. We don't want your borders. We don't want your submission. But we won't let you attack us. And we won't let you harm anyone under our protection. Exor Khan's shoulders lifted and fell, an alien version of a breath. You expect me to retreat? I expect you to think, Carver replied. Silence stretched between them. The warlord finally spoke. And if I don't? Carver's words held no threat, only certainty. Then you'll force a fight you cannot win. Exor Khan studied him, and something changed behind the alien's eyes. The spark of pride dimmed, replaced by reluctant understanding. He lowered his head slightly. Human. Carver. You fight with restraint. That is rare. Carver didn't answer. Exor Khan lifted a hand to his comm. All Vraxian vessels, stand down. A wave of signals rippled across the hologram. Engines powered down. Weapons cooled. Formations loosened. The armada withdrew from offensive posture. The chamber released a collective breath. The speaker addressed the room. The conflict is ended. Carver nodded once. If they keep their distance. The warlord's gaze returned to him. We will honor this withdrawal. But tell me, human, what will history call this day? Carver considered it. A warning. Not a victory. Exor Khan exhaled, the sound rough. Then I say this, your kind is stronger than we believed. Respect has been earned. Carver's voice was steady. Respect goes both ways. The warlord turned, leading his delegation out of the chamber. No threats. No insults. Just silence. When the doors closed, the speaker addressed Carver. Master Sergeant, the galaxy witnessed what happened today. What should we call the rule you spoke of? Carver didn't hesitate. Simple. He faced the room, voice carrying across the hall like the toll of a bell. Never harm a green beret. Above the station, the human fleet slowly drifted back into their concealed formation, watchful, ready, silent. And across the galaxy, species whispered a new truth. Deathworlders do not start wars. But God help you if you try to start one with them. If you want. White heavy checkmark the full combined story into one continuous script. White heavy checkmark a 30-second TikTok HFY voiceover version. White heavy checkmark thumbnail image prompts. Just tell me.